Have you ever had to escape from an Airbnb host, or is it just us? This experience had lived rent-free in my head for 3 years. Story time. Were these people crazy AF and were we lucky to get out when we did? Or are we totally overreacting? Buckle up, because this is a novel and it just gets weirder. Quick backstory: 3 years ago my partner and I were traveling interstate to an Airbnb in NSW. It was meant to be a 2-night stay and the Airbnb had only hosted a few people before and was relatively new. They had great reviews from the previous guests. The accommodation was in a loft, but it was listed as a private entire house rental and non-contact, self-check-in. Which we much prefer. We weren't there on vacay, just stopping through to rest before continuing our drive, so we didn't plan on exploring the area or anything. Okay, so bear with me because it gets really bloody weird and I need to recount everything that happened. So we planned on arriving in the middle of the night, 10 p.m. We contacted our host and they assured that would be no problem and that they'd make sure the gate was open for us when we arrived. We were about 3 hours away, 7 p.m., and we kept getting messages from them asking why we weren't there yet. They kind of seemed annoyed, but in a parent questioning their kids why they weren't home by curfew kind of way. Anyway, we drive in the night down very narrow windy roads in amongst the forest and along a creek before we finally arrive at the Airbnb. It was ominous looking from the get-go, which we kind of loved. We love weird creepy shit. The place's name was Creepy, which was even cooler. Old dark heavy timber gates, long driveway lined with trees that were hundreds of years old. Just super cool. As we open the gate, which they had not left open as they said they would, we see a lantern coming down the driveway. I quickly jumped back in the car because it was bloody creepy. As we drove up toward it, here were an elderly couple, holding a lantern, like out of the beginning of any horror movie, standing in the long driveway which was otherwise pitch black. So we park up and introduce ourselves. But boy did we wish we just had have reversed on out of there. We were introduced to the horses which were in the stable we were staying above, and then the hosts walked us upstairs to let us into the loft. We thought, cool, thanks, we're ready for bed after just driving 13 hours. But no, they let themselves in, sat down and started chatting to us about their life story and asking bizarre personal questions. At this point the husband, who was probably in his mid-70s-ish, started telling us how he was a retired physiotherapist, that he loved to take guests out on bike rides and kayaking in the river, and asked what time we'd be awake in the morning so he could put the bikes in the car and take us down to town to go with a ride with him. There wasn't really a question, he just expected us to. So we said no, we're just going to rest, and I had a sore knee and leg from the drive, old sports injury, and we just wanted to chill out. We thought, this is definitely time for bed. But it wasn't. They then told us about their adopted son who lived with them. We thought this was super sweet. They said he wasn't from Australia and that they'd taken care of him over the past few years as he didn't have any family, etc., and they asked if we'd like to have dinner with them the next night. We said we'd let them know, but we were tired, so ready for bed. The next morning, we woke up and for the first time we could see where we were situated in the daylight. The bedroom window faced the main house, the bathroom window faced a big open field surrounded by forest, and the door to the loft faced the front gate. I jump up and decide to have a shower, and as I do, I notice a ladder leaning up against the bathroom window, which weren't frosted and had no curtains. I thought it was strange, but didn't think too much of it. My partner and I kind of laughed about it, like ooh, maybe they capture Airbnb guests and spy on them. My partner then has a shower and I'm getting dressed in the bedroom area. My partner walks out and in shock, covers himself as he notices the husband standing in the driveway right outside the bedroom window just watching. Again, strange. But we were just like okay, laugh it off. Seconds later there's a knock at the door, and here is the wife with a tray full of food, and they let themselves in yet again to talk about the bike ride or kayak they'll be taking us on that day. We didn't want to be rude, so continued with the story that we were relaxing and my knee hurt. The husband offered his physiotherapy services and to take me privately into his home to work on my knee. He was very persistent about wanting to work on me. It felt creepy, but again maybe reading into it. I just wasn't comfortable. He kept offering and we kept saying no, it's fine, but thank you. It was relentless. He told us how his adopted son had hurt his knee when they found him and he'd helped him by giving him a place to stay and rehabilitating him. Weird, with an adoption? I don't remember how we got there, but they ended up telling us that the adopted son was actually the first guest they'd had in the loft. We were the third, and he'd hurt his knee falling on the property and they'd offered him accommodation in the main house and rehabilitation. It was really weird, the whole thing. We denied dinner that night as it was just way too weird for us and we didn't want to get trapped like the last guy. He spoke often about the appointments he'd taken to that day and spoke as though he was there. But we never saw him. We ended up staying for 3 nights and 2 days because we'd made a mistake. So this behavior, as you can imagine, continued for the whole stay. Random wake-up calls, long discussions, made to feel bad about not wanting to do things with them. They were nice enough, it was just strange. So second morning, I wake up earlier than my partner and jump in the shower. Ladder at the window moved. While I was in there, it moved from the window to the water tank next to it. Someone picked it up and moved it. I freaked. Got out of the shower and went out to wake my partner. He woke up in a daze and said not to worry about it and fell back asleep. So I waited. I didn't want to go out by myself at this stage. I see the man walking back to the main house from the bedroom window and I just lay there telling myself it was just a coincidence. It was super early so I waited about an hour and woke my partner up. He went and had a shower and while he did I decided to walk out onto the deck to get some air. As I walk out, old mate is standing at the bottom of the stairs just looking up at the door completely still like his brain had been taken over by some alien parasite. He then startles and tells us if we want to go kayaking today it will have to be early because he has to take his son into town for an appointment. And walks off. The whole day, they just both pop up in random places. At the door to the loft, just standing and looking in the door, at the car door when we were getting ready to head out, at the bottom of the stairs. It was just weird and we felt like we were constantly being watched. We thought maybe they're just really wanting to impress new guests, but it was just all too strange. That night we avoided them completely. In the morning we planned to wake early and get out of there before they had a chance to see us. We got in the car and they were running down the driveway toward our car. We got in and as the wife arrived to the car, she started banging on the window. My partner told them we had to leave to get a start on the big drive and we drove off. I also got bed bugs staying there. So, did we narrowly avoid being trapped and becoming these hosts' next children or was this all a weird misunderstanding? We still laugh about it today and cringe.